Yeah. So today I want to talk about that cycle of distrust and a lack of empathy that contribute to gangbanging culture and jail culture and shit. Now it's crazy because when you're young, you feel that shit. You know what I mean? You feel like, at least I did when I was a kid. I felt like you can't trust the system because the system wasn't it wasn't designed to protect you. You know what I mean? Like I felt like the system was out to get me. Like, so if any, like, for example, any kind of school teachers, counselors, anything, you couldn't tell them shit. Because as soon as you tell them anything, they're bringing cops to your door. They're bringing social workers there. Like, they're trying to split up your family and shit, right? They said they would try to do it for the best. But I knew cats that ended up in foster care, ended up at, like, McLaren Hall right there in Monte and shit. And they'd be all fucked up. Like, they wouldn't be the same. They wouldn't be in, like, loving homes and shit. You know what I mean? Like, you just put them in another fucked up situation. So you grew up with that distrust, you know what I mean? And you could feel that there was a lack of empathy. You kind of felt like, or at least I felt, that a lot of the times I was being tolerated. I wasn't being advocated for. Nobody was trying to protect me or anything. Like, they were just like, fuck, what are we gonna do with him next? You know what I mean? So it's real fucked up. So you grow up with those feelings like nobody is looking out for you. Like, nobody has your best interest at heart. So when you grow up like that, you kind of lose a little bit of that humanity, a little bit of that softness, right? A little bit of that empathy. So you lose that shit, and then that's when you start victimizing other people because you're like, fuck it. Like, it's either him or me. And then they're going to be me, right? So that's the attitude you carry and shit. So, like, that makes robbing people easier. That makes fucking, shooting at enemies easier. That makes just a lot of shit easier to do. When you go to jail and you have to move on somebody, it's a lot easier because you have that attitude. It's either him or me, and no one's ever looked out for me. You know what I mean? So it's a trip because you have that attitude and shit. You're like, fuck it. Like, it is what it is. So you go from that kind of shit, right? And once you have that attitude, it's crazy because society starts looking at you a certain way. Like, oh, these guys are fucking monsters. These guys are crazy. These guys don't care about anybody. Like, and I'll see comments and shit on YouTube when they'll talk about gang members and shit. They'll say, oh, they should shoot these guys in the head. And just all kinds of shit. Like, throw them in jail. Don't even throw them in jail. Just kill them. Like, all kinds of crazy shit, right? So, again, it's like, yeah, I'm not excusing our actions either because when you're out there, you should really learn from what's going on, and you should really like educate yourself if you could. But there's a lot of times where you can't. There's a lot of times where you're stuck in the same mind state, got that same mentality, where nobody gives a fuck about you, right? But as soon as you start opening your eyes, you should try and speak to other people and let them know, like, hey, this ain't the way and shit. But what's crazy is a lot of times people don't get that opportunity. So you'll see people like just talking shit. Like, there's a hostile feeling that people have towards people from the streets, people from the ghettos and shit, from the barrios, because they feel like they're worthless. They feel like they aren't the same as them. And it's fucked up because, again, now you start to feel even more ostracized. You feel like, man, people really don't give a fuck about us. People don't give a fuck what's going on out here. Like, I'm gonna have to handle my own. Nobody cares if I fucking live or die, right? So you're gonna act accordingly. You're gonna act the way you always felt that everybody else treated you. Like, fuck it, I'm a fucking gangster. No one gives a fuck. I'm gonna fucking, like, and put it like this. This is another thing. If you don't give a fuck about somebody, if they live or die, why do you think they should give a fuck if you live or die? Like, that's why people need to be more empathetic. People need to say, nah, everybody needs to be treated equally. Everybody needs to be looked at as a human being that's trying to live and find happiness. And there's a lot of things that get in the way of that. So it is a fucked up thing because, like, it's easy to victimize people if you don't give a fuck about them. And it's easy to not give a fuck about somebody if they don't give a fuck about you. And that's just the way it is. It's a fucked up cycle where nobody cares about each other. And then when you get busted, you got staff that don't give a fuck about you, so you don't give a fuck about the staff. You know what I mean? And you got fucking rivals that don't give a fuck about you, so you don't give a fuck about rivals. And it's like, it goes on and on. But there has to come a point where somebody just starts giving a fuck and advocating for other people. They start saying like, nah, man, like this can't continue like this. Like we can't continue to just brutalize and victimize each other. Like there has to be more to this shit. So that's when I think you start breaking the cycle, when you start surrounding yourself with other people, when you start putting yourself in other people's shoes and positions and understanding them. Because I really think if somebody were to have reached out to me and my boys at a younger age and really took us under the wing and said, look, I'm going to teach you guys how to find education that's going to work for you guys. I'm going to teach you guys about financial literacy. I'm going to teach you guys about all kinds of shit, right? Like your history, your roots. I'm going to teach you guys about all that shit. What would happen is some of us would eventually have changed. Yeah, there's going to be those knuckleheads that are going to just say, fuck it. Like, nah. But just because there's those few knuckleheads that aren't going to change, that shouldn't dictate how you treat the rest of the group, right? So for a lot of us, I think we were reachable. I know for a fact I was, because when I went to YA, there was a volunteer that just gave me a book, and that's what really, reading that book really changed my life, the way I looked at things. So I know for a fact I was reachable, and I know there were tons of other people who have changed now, who kind of saw things differently now, or see things differently now. So they were reachable. So, but the fucked up thing is a lot of us had to go through adversity and a longer journey than we should have to get to the point where we're at today. So it's a trip, you know what I mean? Like, we have to be empathetic towards other people. We have to understand like why they do what they do, and we have to really see like, man, like what put them in that position to act like that. And yeah, there are gonna be a few people where you're gonna be like, man, this motherfucker is hopeless, like we should just leave it alone. But the majority of people, they're not like that. The majority of people you could reach out to, the majority of people will, like, they will listen. They'll at least give you a fucking, you know what I mean, a moment of their time. And maybe that shit works out. Maybe down the line they're like, hey, that shit really changed me. Like, another kind of shit, like, I talk a lot about politics in my personal life with people and shit, and there have been people who have been on, different pages for that I'm in politically, and I just speak to them for a bit and tell them like, yeah, this break it down the way I see shit, and then later on they'll hit me up like, hey dog, that's a trip, like I see it now, I see what you were saying this whole time, you know what I mean? And it's because my shit's consistent. Like I have a consistent view on things, and empathy is one of those things too. Like, I do think that we have to be more empathetic and more compassionate to people who are ostracized from or in society. Like I think people who other people, because like I said before, I've been on all sides. Like, I work in bank environments and shit. I've been on fucking reality TV sets and shit. You know what I mean? Like, I've done all kinds of shit. Like, so for me, it's like I see who people still view as the bottom. At the bottom, like homeless people, a little bit of and gang members. Like, that's where they see, like, and people from the streets that aren't involved in gangs but are still ghetto. That's like second towards the bottom. But for me, I don't see it that way. I see that's potential right there. There's a lot of potential there. And there's a lot of people who just need a little bit of compassion, a little bit of empathy, a little bit of warmth. If you can do that, if you can help them out, that can make a significant change. You don't know whose life you're changing. You don't know what those people are gonna end up being, who they're gonna change into. And that's just my point of view. I think that there's a lot of empathy, or there's a lot of opportunity for empathy and compassion that we could really look towards and strive to achieve. That's all I gotta say. I'm out. Peace.